AI is the most disruptive force we've ever seen in recruitment marketing. So, what's its impact? Are we going to see less input from humans and a decline in creativity? Or could this be the point where recruitment marketing steps up to be genuinely strategic? Keep listening to find out. Support for this podcast comes from Smart Recruiters. Are you looking to supercharge your hiring? Meet Winston, Smart Recruiters' AI-powered companion. I've had a demo of Winston. The capabilities are extremely powerful, and it's been crafted to elevate hiring to a whole new level. This AI sidekick goes beyond the usual assistant, handling all the time-consuming admin work so you can focus on connecting with top talent and making better hiring decisions. From screening candidates to scheduling interviews, Winston manages it all with AI precision, keeping the hiring process fast, smart, and effective. Head over to smartrecruiters.com and see how Winston can deliver superhuman results.
There's been more of scientific discovery, more of technical advancement and material progress in your lifetime and mine than in all the ages of history.
Hi there. Welcome to episode 735 of Recruiting Future with me, Matt Alder. Recruiting Future helps talent acquisition teams drive measurable impact by developing strategic capability in foresight, influence, talent, and technology. If you're interested in finding out how your TA function measures up in these 4 critical areas, I've created the free Fit for the Future assessment. It'll give you personalized insights to help you build strategic clarity and drive greater impact immediately. Just head over to mattalder.me/podcast to complete the assessment. It only takes a few minutes. This episode is about technology and influence. Recruitment marketing is undergoing a fundamental shift as AI transforms the way work is done and who does it. Marketing automation is evolving at a rapid pace and will drive significant efficiency gains. But what is the impact on originality, creativity, and strategic thinking? So, how are recruitment marketeers evolving? And what should employers now expect from their recruitment marketing teams and agencies? My guest this week is James Whitelock, Managing Director at ThinkinCircles Recruitment Marketing. In our conversation, James reveals what employers should now demand from modern recruitment marketers, which skills remain irreplaceable, and how to build teams that leverage AI without losing human creativity. Hi, James, and welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Matt. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, it is an absolute pleasure to finally have you on the show. It's taken ages for me to actually ask you, which is very rude because I've been on your show about 4 or 5 times, but brilliant to have you here. Can you introduce yourself and tell everyone what you do?
So I'm the managing director of ThinkinCircles Recruitment Marketing. We're an agency that works specifically in the recruitment and HR space, working with recruitment agencies or staffing agencies, rec tech suppliers and suppliers into the recruitment and HR space, and a little bit of kind of employer branding with direct employers and all of that kind of cool stuff that goes around it from strategic all the way through to delivery. I've also got a podcast as well.
Tell us about your podcast.
The Marketing Rules podcast. It, as you mentioned, you've been on a few times. We just, again, talk to interesting people about what's going on in the industry, about, what's kind of the new tech. The name is a bit of a misnomer now that it's less about marketing and more around kind of recruitment and talent attraction.
Fantastic. So, it's a really interesting time for marketing at the moment. It's an interesting time for recruitment at the moment. So it's a fascinating time for recruitment marketing. What are the biggest shifts that you're seeing in, marketing in the recruitment space at the moment? Both for agencies, for in-house teams, what's going on?
So I'm going to have to bring up that dreaded word of AI, right? That has kind of, I was going to say decimated, but it hasn't really. It's democratized all of the kind of marketing really from a perspective that, it is easier to do some of that kind of junior level stuff that a recruitment marketer might well do. That more kind of rules-based process type stuff can be pretty much all automated now, from design work to scheduling, to posting, to content creation to a certain extent. So that's the real kind of big change. And I assume that AI is probably going to kind of continue to kind of creep up that marketing seniority and skills kind of level. But it's unsure where and exactly how far that can kind of go. The problem, I think, with a lot of AI in marketing at the minute is it lacks that originality and creativity, and it's kind of feeding off itself to a certain extent what's kind of gone before. So you're kind of working within this kind of, this snake that's eating itself to a certain extent, and it doesn't really kind of, the role of a marketeer generally is that kind of creative process and that strategic thinking and that ideation and those kinds of things. And AI can do some of that, but we've been here before. We've had automation that's kind of come along previously and things like that. And then even if you go back to kind of when email marketing came in, again, it's one of those things that it's just another process that's going to be kind of part of the mix, I think. But it's definitely going to have an impact on what a recruitment marketer actually does in the future, as opposed to kind of what they're doing now.
Yeah, and I kind of really want to dig into that because I think it's a really interesting area. But before we do that, let's just talk a little bit about the creative part of this. So it's about companies standing out, connecting with their target audience. There will be people listening who wouldn't even consider using AI as part of that process. There'll be people listening who are using AI to do all of that process for them. Where are we at the moment in terms of what people should be doing with AI when it comes to creative? How do we stop that snake from eating itself? How do people stand out while still kind of reaping the benefits of the speed and efficiency that it can bring in that area?
Well, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head, right? It is that speed and efficiency piece and I always describe using AI and AI tools as, like an assistant or a junior. They shouldn't be really doing the more kind of human touch type stuff, or maybe the kind of story driven stuff or the community building stuff. That's really now where I think modern recruitment marketeers should be kind of aiming themselves into that. So the brand building through storytelling, community building, that is kind of the stuff that I think the modern kind of marketeer should be doing. I always kind of describe it as kind of like T-shaped, when I talk to young kind of marketeers coming to business, it's like, find a really quite niche area that you're really good at, right? That could still be copywriting, because there's always going to be a need for those kinds of things. But then have a broad understanding across brand, across tech, and that's your kind of T shape. So the only exception that probably moving forward is design and graphic design. That I think is really, really in danger of being kind of worked out of the kind of the skills based and the skills process. But there's probably still something in there that a decent designer can do that an AI probably never will be able to do. So yeah, I think if you're a kind of a marketeer these days, brand storytelling, AI just can't do that kind of stuff. Can't get grip of that kind of stuff. Community building, again, not really kind of. And I suppose one of the questions someone might say, well, isn't that a reaction because AI is doing all the other stuff? You're finding other stuff to do. Well, no, we've been bashing about this kind of stuff and trying to kind of do this kind of thing anyway. And then you've got, the great thing that AI does do is that a kind of data analytics and analysis, and becoming kind of and lumping all that together in one place and being able to kind of crunch those numbers. That's kind of the beauty of AI. And also things like, again, I talk to my team about becoming more kind of orchestrators in all of this, and the administrators and the facilitators for kind of the stack management and that kind of thing, which maybe doesn't sound very sexy when it comes to kind of marketing. Well, probably why you didn't get into it. But I think that's kind of one of the realities. I think that's one of the new things that might come into marketing, might be a kind of a marketing stack manager kind of things. Like, how does all this stuff actually just tie in together, and how are you going to kind of manage it? Because there's always going to be need for human processes within those kinds of within those tech, right?
Yeah, I think it's also, while there are lots of different bits of tech that may or may not work together very well and all those sort of things, I think it's a big issue. I mean, let's dive into that a little bit. I mean, you're sort of mentioning the sort of the skills of the kind of modern marketer and all that kind of stuff. And I know that there were people listening who use marketing agencies to help them. And there are also people listening who have in-house resource. They may want to increase that in-house resource, or they may want to really inform themselves about how they can get the best marketing agency for what they do. What are the skills within this? What do we now need to think about when we think about recruitment marketing?
I think the big thing is that kind of strategy and that creativity kind of aspect. The strategy piece is something that isn't going anywhere, right? You're not going to be able to replace, even you can dump into ChatGPT, build me a marketing strategy, right? But as I said, that's that snake feeding off itself. It's not necessarily completely relevant to that business, and it's not bespoke to that business or whatever project you're working on, the outcomes you need to get, if you're a recruitment agency, how are you going to get yourself in front of those audiences? You dump that into GPT, you're just going to get quite kind of generic answers at the moment, and it will just pick out from what your website that already says now and kind of feed that back to you. So, from the work that we do and the bit, that strategy piece is definitely something that is that it hasn't been replaced yet. So marketing strategy, marketing planning, and that's the ability to kind of understand the requirements of the project and the client. Again, these things just aren't there with AI at the moment, right? So that's kind of that one piece. That's quite kind of high level. If you kind of start to break it down, when you kind of go further down what maybe a marketing manager does, or maybe even go down to a marketing exec, and the marketing exec piece is going to be is the bit that's going to be devoured potentially by a lot of AI. But still, I think that's where this kind of tool orchestration. So when I talk to kind of young designers and marketeers, my kind of I always encourage them to just know AI, get to know AI, get to know what it can do and what it can't do, because you're going to fit into that, right? That's how you're going to figure out what you can and can't do within that space. Whether that is, much more kind of sophisticated design, whether that's the kind of copywriting piece, whether that's the stack management piece, whether that is understanding how, whether that's like we were talking about for kind of influencer marketing and things like that, simply just can't, I think now more than ever, if you are coming into marketing, you really need to be able to kind of keep your finger on the pulse of what is actually happening out there, right? The days of you took a marketing degree and that marketing degree kind of gave you a list of things that you should be able to do. Now these days you've now got to kind of completely stay on top of what's coming out, what's new, what's moving, what's shaking. Otherwise you do get you get left behind quite quickly and you can seem pretty prosaic. And so if you're running a business and you're looking to kind of support your marketing businesses as smart marketing people, or if you're looking to work with an agency, it's right. What's their credibility around kind of the strategic planning and strategic marketing, and ask them where does AI fit into your process and where doesn't it fit into the process? What are the things you will do with it and what is it you won't do? As an example, when we're working with clients, we're up front. We say, yeah, we do use AI as part of the kind of as the efficiency tools, but we're always the human touch. And I think that while there's that slight still mistrust sometimes in AI, and also I say, this will probably date the podcast, but with GPT-5 being a bit underwhelming, right? It is kind of like those kind of things are the things where a marketer can say, look, there's still a place for me in this area. Again, I still think there's video production is a great place to kind of work. Audio production. Again, these are places that AI, you can tell an AI video off, from a mile away, and those kind of things. The same with an AI podcast. So they're not there yet, and that can be the kind of the part of the tea that you have become experts in.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. I kind of I always like to think of it in terms of the sort of these kind of 3 A's. So the first one is automation. And obviously you've sort of already outlined there some of the things that can be automated, but it's also that's a moving picture because more and more is going to fall into that. And then there's what you can augment. So obviously with the data and all that kind of stuff, that's going to really help people do their jobs better and be more informed. And then there's the bits that you kind of amplify as humans. And I think you're right. That sort of that strategy piece and the really the creativity and the human aspect of it are just kind of vital. And I think with recruitment marketing, it's uniquely positioned to be human because of what it's doing. It's persuading people to move job at the simplest possible level, which is kind of a huge human decision with lots of moving parts.
It's like you're the translator between the technology and the people, right? Or your audience. That's kind of, again, one, I've got all these kind of buzz terms, but those are the kind of things that makes kind of sense, right? You're that kind of go-between to a certain extent. You know both sides of it. Whereas, the audience that you're trying to talk to may only know one aspect of what you're trying to do. So I see that marketeer is that kind of that go-between.
From my experience of working in recruitment marketing for a long time, one of the biggest frustrations was it couldn't be as creative and as strategic as other forms of marketing just because of the time pressure. So we have a week to do this, whereas a consumer agency would have 6 months to do this. And it's amazing that some of the incredible creative work that is produced in those timescales. But this to me seems like a massive opportunity for recruitment marketing to kind of step up and, use the efficiencies and that augmentation to be more creative and be more strategic.
Yeah, I agree. I've argued that recruitment marketing should have that seat at the table for that kind of, to use that horrible kind of phrase, for a long time. And there's definitely businesses out there, whether they're staffing agencies and whether they're kind of direct employers and talent teams, where recruitment marketing is starting to kind of have a much more kind of strategic position and being given that time to have that strategic position and understood that within that business, it's a strategic position as opposed to either being buried somewhere within the talent team or buried somewhere within the marketing team, or floating uncomfortably between the two somehow. But it's definitely coming to the forefront now. And the ability to kind of do that has, you're right, been augmented by the tech that's available now. You can do more for less to a certain extent. So it allows you to be creative and be kind of strategic, which I think most marketeers, once they kind of get down to it, really want to be. They want to be in that position. It's, most marketeers got into it because it's seen as a creative industry. And, sometimes it doesn't allow you to be creative simply because recruitment marketing can be incredibly fast paced. Some of the businesses and some of your clients, or maybe internally, it's also sometimes misunderstood what you're actually doing. We always make the joke about the colouring in department and things like that. So, but that kind of is now definitely kind of shifting. I can say this with a fair amount of clarity with the amount of businesses that we work with who have now got their own internal kind of recruitment marketeers, whether they be kind of corporate businesses, whether there's SME businesses, whether they're staffing agencies. And I don't think the 3 A's, as you mentioned, are going to jeopardize that, right? I think they're only going to make that easier, right? Basically, because I think some of those 3 A's are actually sitting in the wrong places probably at the moment within a lot of businesses, i.e. with the talent teams who shouldn't really be doing that, within brand marketing who kind of don't really understand the recruitment marketing. So who's going to take responsibility for those? Well, it should be recruitment marketing.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. It should kind of bring it to the fore. It should make it easier. I mean, where do people get started with this? So we know that lots of people are now using AI to translate job descriptions into job ads and things like that. So we're kind of seeing, that was always one of the first use cases that came up for generative AI. So, we're seeing people doing this. What's your advice in terms of sort of building out their capability in this kind of AI-driven world that we're now in?
Well, I think just become more familiar and fluent in how to work with AI tools, right? You get a lot of people who just cut and paste stuff into GPT without giving it like the proper prompts and things like that. It's an incredibly powerful tool. And, you'll know this from the kind of the work that you've done around with AI on, going back and researching all of your podcasts and the trends. That wouldn't have been possible, 5 years ago, right? It just wouldn't have been able to do it. And so if you translate that to what, marketeers can do, crunching down through all of the data now, instead of having it all you can still have it all very in disparate places. So data analysis is one of the things that should be completely opened up to us now. I can grab an Excel spreadsheet from over there. I can grab a text document from over there. I can grab, a PDF from there, dump it into ChatGPT, and as long as I'm prompting it right, it's gonna give me the kind of answers, and it's gonna crunch all that data. So I think that familiarity just with AI, because again, there's a lot of misconceptions about it, and so just kind of getting there, getting in, jumping into it. As an example, within my business, most of the team have like the paid for versions of GPT, so they have all of that research power at their fingertips, because it's that it speeds up that kind of process, and we can offer more. Right, we can offer more to our clients. And if you're an internal recruitment marketer, that's the kind of thing you want to be doing. So you can upskill yourself and big up your role and big up your job, because like, I can now do all this for you, whereas I couldn't have done that before. And if you're trying to kind of bring yourself to attention within your business, or want to become, more, grab the attention of a client, the ability to go to them and say, and kind of show them this research pieces or data analysis that just wasn't, would have taken you weeks to do, can now be done in a matter of minutes. That's the kind of stuff that I think is going to get you noticed, and get you noticed to the right kind of people, and you can tailor it. So I think that's the kind of thing that you want. If you, actually in the end, some of those more specific skills that will come, right? Because marketers need to kind of upskill and side skill, et cetera, anyway, all the time. But that kind of stuff to get you noticed within your business, that's where I think, you can kind of really use AI to your advantage, because you can speed up that stuff that's relevant to the people above you.
Yeah, I think that's a kind of a stunning point. And it's really interesting, like, with the project that I did. Now, the caveat about all of this is obviously caveats around privacy and what data you put in. And also, when you're mucking around with code, just, the damage you can do and all that kind of stuff. With all those caveats aside, I mean, what's been really interesting for me was I built something using GPT 4.5 to analyze all the sort of past transcripts of the podcast. And with GPT-5, there's already a new way of doing it. And I know that because I asked it to tell me, and it's written some code, it's done all this kind of stuff. So you can actually ask AI to tell you how to use it as well, which I think is kind of really interesting. And, some of the things that I'm kind of doing now, particularly with like the code and data and stuff like that, I wouldn't have even imagined that I'd be doing that 6 months ago. But that's kind of where we are, just in terms of how quickly things are evolving.
Well, you look at a tool like Lovable, right? Whereas like, this day you can get it to do pretty much anything for you. You can build your stuff for you, build your landing pages, build your tests, build whatever you want it to do, right? That just wasn't there. And so again, as a marketeer, you can, say someone said you've got an idea for a campaign, you want to create a landing page very quickly. Boom, it can be almost instantaneously done. And even if it's not the final version, what you've done is you've kind of got this proof of concept type scenario where you can just go, look, this is pretty much how it can work. This is how that's going to kind of play out. So it just makes you way more kind of efficient, and actually allows you to be more creative, because you can do things faster and change it faster and be more creative with it. And that's the kind of thing where instead of putting pen to paper, right, and doing it kind of that way and scrawling stuff out, it's kind of we're past that. And I think that's the things that marketeers should be kind of leaning more into. I think the ones that don't, those are the ones that possibly are going to get a bit kind of left behind. If you're stuck in the ways that you're still, your head's down in Adobe Illustrator and Adobe Photoshop, right? Probably days are numbered, But if you're taking advantages and proving your worth, which is again the thing that recruitment marketing has always had trouble with, right? Proving that we're an investment and we're not a cost center. These tools now should be kind of allowing us to do that faster and better and just more efficiently.
Yeah, and I think there's sort of two things to add to that. I think that we're in a unique time that we've not seen for a while, where everyone's a beginner. So it's kind of a brilliant time to kind of really sort of go deep on this. And I think also, I kind of decided this a couple of days ago that, as a rule of thumb, if you're not overwhelmed and a bit lost by everything that AI could do, for you in your role, then you really haven't looked into it properly enough. I think that's probably the best kind of guide at the moment, because it's just can blow your mind. We could geek out on this for about another 3 hours, but just to sort of pull it kind of into focus as a sort of a final question, where do you think we're heading with this? I mean, you've obviously got a business that you're building, you've had it for some time. If we look ahead, we try and look ahead 5 years into the future, where do you think we're going to be with recruitment marketing by that point?
I don't think it's going to be a huge amount different, in all honesty. I think, like most of these kind of technological kind of leaps, they feel very scary right at the start, but actually they become quite normalized quite quickly in time. We're both old enough to have seen some of these kind of these leaps in technological advances before. So I think there's, like we've discussed, there's, if you're a recruit marketeer, how strategic can you be? If you're not there yet in your kind of development, double down onto understanding what AI can do and how it can speed up the stuff that you want to do, or maybe not AI, just automation, but become way more familiar with the technology at your fingertips. Don't be afraid of it, right? Throw yourself into it, because it's not going to destroy your career. It's not going to take over your job. This isn't the Terminator or something like that. Actually, it can help you do more stuff than you probably could do before. So if you're just coming into this space, or a junior in this space, that's how I would treat it. If you're more senior, kind of like a marketing manager, maybe kind of looking to become CMO kind of role, strategically, what can you offer, right? What can you offer that if you put yourself compared to a strategy that's come out of GPT, right? What's the difference? You know what I mean? The difference is because you understand the markets, you understand the audience, you understand brand building, you understand communities, you understand tone of voice and the voices of the people you want to talk to. That kind of stuff is where you want to be kind of, really making your mark.
James, thank you very much for talking to me. My thanks to James. Don't forget, if you haven't already, you can quickly and easily benchmark your talent acquisition capability by completing the free Fit for the Future assessment. Just head over to mattalder.me/podcast. It only takes a few minutes and you'll receive valuable feedback straight away. You can follow this podcast on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. You can also search through all the past episodes at recruitingfuture.com, where you can also subscribe to our weekly newsletter, Recruiting Future Feast, and get the inside track on everything that's coming up on the show. Thanks very much for listening. I'll be back next time, and I hope you'll join me.
This is my show.